Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fanfic Nightmares. I understand that nobody watches this series anymore, but for those of you who do, welcome. Also, I have been sick for 3 days, and with me tonight are Kane, who you've become familiar with as the really loud one who talks about Metroid and random stuff all the time, as well
Accurate.
as somebody who has decided that he's still alive.
I fade in and out of
That's
existence
not
as
how
I
that works, and you know
as
that.
as I see fit.
You don't have to lie about it, okay? It's Zach, everybody. You may remember
me.
him from years gone by as someone who is a close friend of mine, who I consider a very important friend, who has decided that it's a good idea
Love you too, Josh.
to just walk back in as if he wasn't gone. But it's okay. We're gonna pretend like he never left. And in fact, to welcome him back, we're gonna read a creepypasta that is so old, and at this point, I mean, everyone kind of knows this one. Anyone who doesn't, I'm surprised, because this was like one of the popular ones back when this was a popular thing to do. But Zach is a fan of it, and I never actually read it before. So,
Neither am I.
the heck with it. We're reading Ben Drowned, Part 1, Day 4.
Tale of the Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge. Ooh.
You're both like the same person. You know that, right? I don't know. I'm gonna deal with
True.
this. Alright. And if my voice starts slipping, I'm sorry. Again, I've been so ill for 3 days. Yeah. Okay. /x/ I need your help with this. This is not copy pasta. This is a long read, but I feel like my safety or well-being could very well depend on this. This is video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and this is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64 to play. I was stoked, to say the least. I could finally play all those old games of my youth that I hadn't touched in at least a decade. His Nintendo 64 came with one yellow controller and a rather shoddy copy of the Super Smash Bros. And while beggars can't be choosers, needless to say it didn't take long until I became bored of beating up level 9 CPUs. Because you're just that good. Yeah, I'm really good at games, and I'm just gonna beat up these level 9 CPUs like a pro, and now I'm bored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
tournaments
bored.
below me.
That weekend, I decided to drive around a few neighborhoods, about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting up the local garage sales, because those are a thing. Everyone has garage sales. You just drive around neighborhoods? Doesn't everybody do that?
I mean, it's a weekend.
Listen, I don't do that. That's not a thing that happens.
It's not.
Especially not alone. Hoping to score on some good deals from ignorant parents. Wow. I ended up picking up a copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, F yeah, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2. They sold you all that for $2? Okay, they were pretty ignorant.
Okay.
I concede that was... I mean, good job.
Wow.
Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I still have no idea why it did. There wasn't even a garage sale there. There were no cards there, and only one table was set up with random junk on it. Something sort of drew me there. I usually trust my gut on these things, so I got out of the car, and I was greeted by an old man. His outward appearance was, for lack of a better word, displeasing. He was an ugly old man. It was odd, if you asked me to tell you why I thought he was displeasing. I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is that if it wasn't in the middle of the afternoon and there were other people within shouting distance, I would not have even thought of approaching this man, because he was old and scary.
Ageist.
Scary old man.
All of the creepiness.
He flashed a crooked smile at me. I believe that is a typo. And asked what I was looking for. What are you looking for, sonny? And immediately I noticed that he must be blind in one of his eyes. My God, it's Kane when he's old.
I was just gonna say, so it's me. Okay.
His right eye had that glazed over look about it. I forced myself to look to his left eye instead, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation when he would tell me he had no idea what a video game was. But to my surprise, he said he had a few ones in an old box. He assured me that he'd be back in a jiffy and turned to head back into the garage.
You see, I made a peanut butter joke.
Are we sure this is just you in like 90 years? Because
Totally is.
frankly, I could see that happening.
No, because I don't see Kane selling any of his old video games.
That's true. Kane is a hoarder like that. I kind of concede that point. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice what he was selling on his table. Littered across his table were rather peculiar paintings. Various artworks that looked like ink blots that a psychiatrist might show you. Curious. I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting this guy's garage sale. These weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason it looked almost like Majora's Mask. The same heart-shaped body with little spikes protruding outward. Initially, I just thought that since I was secretly hoping to find that game at these garage sales, some Freudian BS was projecting itself into the ink blots. But given the events that happened afterward, I'm not so sure now. I should have asked the man about it. I wish I would have asked the man about it. But I didn't, because he was displeasing. After staring at the Majora-shaped blot, I looked up and the old man was suddenly there again, arm's length in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit I jumped out of reflex and I laughed nervously as he handed me a Nintendo 64 cartridge. It was a standard gray color, except that someone had written Majora on it in a black permanent marker. I got butterflies in my stomach as I realized what a coincidence this was, and asked him how much he wanted for it. Okay, first of all, I know you're excited, but like, if it just says Majora on it and it's not... Majora only had gold cartridges, right?
I was just going to say, didn't Majora only have golden cartridges?
By default, I think so, yeah. Because, like, the only way it would have a gray one is if they swapped the circuit board.
Well, that, there are technically two versions of it, where one has a holographic label over a gold cartridge, and one just has a standard label.
I have the holographic.
The holographic one is more common.
You see, guys, there's actually 3 versions of it. One is holographic, one is standard, the third is haunted.
And the third one looks like someone broke their cartridge and swapped in a sports game.
Yeah, he takes it home and it's like frickin' NFL 95 or something ridiculous. The old man smiled at me and told me I could have it for free. That it used to belong to a kid who was about my age that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how the man phrased that. But I didn't really pay attention to then. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. You still don't know if it's the... Never mind. I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge. Thank you. I'm glad you finally got to that issue. And there's no guarantee it would work. But then the optimist inside me interjected that maybe it was some kind of beta version or pirated version of the game that was that was all I needed to be back on Cloud 9. I thanked the man, and the man smiled at me and wished me well, saying, "Goodbye then." At least that's what it sounded like to me. On the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt about that the man had said something else. My fears were confirmed when I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine, and there was only one save file simply named Ben. Goodbye, Ben! He was saying, goodbye, Ben. I felt bad for the man, obviously a grandparent or obviously going senile, and I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson, Ben. Out of curiosity, I looked at the save file. Eyeballing it, I could tell he was pretty far in the game. He had almost all of the masks and three-quarter remains of the bosses. That seems really weirdly
3 of
phrased.
the 4 remains of the bosses.
What?
It's still badly phrased either way. I noticed that he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was only on day 3, and by... Oh, not only. He was on day 3, and by the Stone Tower Temple with hardly an hour left before the moon would crash. I remember thinking it was a shame that he had come so close to beating the game, but he had never finished it. I made a new file named Link out of tradition, and started the game, ready to relive my childhood. For such a shady-looking game cartridge, I was impressed at how smoothly it ran. Literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there, like textures being where they shouldn't be, random flashes of cutscenes at odd intervals, but nothing too bad. However, the only thing that was a little unnerving was that at times the NPCs would call me Link, and other times they would call me Ben. I figured it was just a bug, a fluke in the programming causing our files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out, though, after a while. And it was around after I had beaten the Woodfall Temple that I regrettably went into the save files and deleted Ben. I had intended to preserve the file just out of respect for the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway, hoping that would solve the problem. It did, and it didn't. Now NPCs wouldn't call me anything. Where my name should be in the dialogue, there was just a blank space. My save file name was still called Link, though. Frustrated, and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing the game again last night, getting the lens of truth and working my way towards completing the Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more hardcore Majora's Mask players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, you can Google it, but the gist of it is that right as the clock is about to hit 000000 on the final day, you talk to the astronomer and look through the telescope. If you time it right, the countdown disappears and you essentially have another day to finish whatever you were just doing. Deciding to do the glitch to try and finish the Snowhead Temple, I happened to get it right on the first try, and the time counter at the bottom disappeared. However, when I pressed B to exit the telescope, instead of being greeted by the astronomer, I found myself in the Majora boss fight room at the end of the game, the trippy, boxed-in area, staring at Skull's Kid hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air above me, and the background music, which was regular for the area, but still creepy. Immediately, my palms began to sweat. This was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared here. I tried moving around the area, and no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, looking at me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen, though, and this kept up for around 60 seconds. I thought the game had bugged or something, but I was beginning to doubt that very much. I was about to reach for the reset button when text appeared on my screen. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you get the room key from Anju at the Stockpot Inn, but why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the notion that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started navigate the room again, testing to see if it was some sort of trigger that enabled me to interact with something here. Then I realized how stupid I was. To think that someone could reprogram the game like this was absurd. There's no programmers in real life. They're myths. ROM hackers have never existed. It's an old wives' tale. The fools. Assuming fans could recode games and make them weird and do unique and custom things. Preposterous!
You can't code a video game. They're magic.
Sure enough, 15 seconds later, another message appeared on the screen. And again, like the first one, it was already a pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss? Yes or no? I paused for a second, contemplating what I should press and how the game would react, when I realized that I couldn't select no. Taking a deep breath, I pressed yes, and the screen faded to white, with the words, Dawn of a New Day. With the subtext, vertical lines beneath it. How do I pronounce that? I mean, they could be a bunch of lower... They could be a bunch of lowercase L's, so they're all or if they're a bunch of I's, it's I.
So what you're saying, it's Dawn of a New Day.
Kane. Where I was ported to filled me with the most... Where I was ported to filled me... English, with the most intense sense of dread and impending fear I had ever experienced. How dare you cough in the middle of my reading? I am the one with the sore throat, and you have to clear your throat?
Excuse me.
Uh-huh. That's right. You better excuse yourself.
You could edit this out.
Nah. The only way I can describe the way I felt here is having this feeling of inexplicable depression on a profound scale. So my daily life. I get that. I am normally not a depressed person. Don't worry, I'm with you. But the way I felt here...
You lucky neurotypical.
But the way I felt here was a feeling that I didn't even knew existed. It was such a twisted, powerful presence that seemed to wash over me.
I was ported to the Zelda CDI games.
This pain persists. I can't resist. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clock Town. I walked out of the clock tower, as you normally do when you start from day one, only to find that all of the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the 4th day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around outside the tower. This time they were all gone. What replaced them was the ominous feeling that there was something out there, in the same area as me, and that it was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name in the hero's bow, but at this point, I wasn't even considered for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the most chilling thing was the music. It was a song of healing, ripped straight from the game itself, but played in reverse. The music would get louder, building up so as if you should expect something to pop out at you, but nothing ever did, and the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then, I would hear the faint laugh of the happy mask salesman in the background, just quiet enough so I wasn't sure if I was just hearing things, but just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked at all 4 zones of Clocktown, only to find nothing. No one. The textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken. Hopelessly broken. As the reverse song of healing repeated for what it must have been the 50th time. I just remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing that I had never felt so alone in a video game before.
Really?
Can I
You've
point
never
out,
played
I
a...
have one question. What version of Song of Healing are we talking about? Are we talking about the full version or the ocarina version? Because if it's the ocarina version being played backwards, that's just Saria's song.
No, it is the full version. It is the full version being played because
that's what I'm assuming is playing now. You can't change my mind.
if you watch the video at the end,
If
gotcha.
you watch the video, maybe if you did some research, Dark, instead of just poking fun. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was the combination of the out-of-place textures, the atmosphere, and the haunting melody of the once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted. But I was literally on the verge of tears, and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. I'm pretty hardcore like that. Something had gripped me here. This powerful sense of depression was both foreign and crippling.
This is going so overboard.
I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black, and I would just zone in to another part of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina. I wanted to escape, and I did not want to be here, but every time I played the Song of Time or the Song of Soaring, it would only say, "Your notes echo far, but nothing happens." By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but I had no idea why it was keeping me here. I didn't even want to go inside the buildings. I felt I felt that I would be too vulnerable there to whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that maybe if I drowned myself at the laundry pool, I could spawn somewhere else and leave this place.
That's not how that works.
I'm sorry. So wait, so you're terrified to go in the buildings, but you're not scared enough to, like, you could just drown your... Listen, go in the buildings! Just...
He's too scared. It's too spooky, Josh.
Yeah, this empty town with a reverse Song of Healing playing. That's it.
Man, it's real spook.
Maximum spook factor, Zach?
Maximum spook factor.
Okay. As I zoned in and ran towards the pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head, and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the happy mask salesman smiling at me. Not Link. Me with Skull Kid's scream playing in the background, and when the screen returned, I was staring at the Link statue from playing the song Elegy of Emptiness. I screamed as the thing just stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out and back into South Clocktown. And to my horror, the effing statue followed me in the only way I can compare this is like the weeping angels from Doctor Who. That sentence was awful. Every so often, at random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or, I don't even want to say it, haunting me.
Dun dun dun.
By this point, I was on the verge of hysterics. Turn off the game! Why does this always happen with these creepypastas?
Like, just rip the system out of the wall and yeet it out the window.
But not even once did the thought of turning off the console occur to me. Oh my...
Jesus Christ.
We were kidding!
I don't know why. I was so wrapped up in it. The terror felt all so real. It was such a rush. It came over me, and I felt so powerful, but so helpless at the same time. I tried to shake the statue, but it would literally appear right behind me every single time. Link started to begin to make weird animations I had never seen him do before. He would flail his arms around or spasm randomly, and the screen would cut to the happy mask salesman smiling again for a brief moment before I was face to face with that effing statue again. I ended up running into the Sword Master's dojo and ran to the back. I don't know why, but in my panic I just wanted to have some kind of assurance that I'm not alone here. To my dismay, I found no one, but as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. I tried attacking the statue with my sword, but to no avail. Confused, I backed into a corner. I just stared at the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again at the happy mask salesman, and Link turned to face my screen, standing upright, mirroring the statue, looking at me along with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left of the fourth wall was completely shattered while I ran out of the dojo terrified. Suddenly, the game morphed me to an underground tunnel, and the reverse Song of Healing queued up again as I was given a brief moment of rest before the statue started appearing behind me again, this time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it would summon behind me again. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in southern Clocktown. As I ran aimlessly in a sheer panic, suddenly a Re-Dead screamed, and the screen faded to black as Dawn of a New Day and appeared again. And I think that's a good stopping point.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So what do we think so far, gentlemen?
Well, I'm curious to, like, what do you guys think?
This is hilarious.
Turn off the game!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in that mentality.
You have to remember,
too.
though, this is one of the first video game
Turn
creepypastas.
off
This
the
is-
game!
This is from almost 10 years ago.
Oh, I know.
Hashtag! Turn
Turn
off
off the game.
the game!
Yes. Oh, actually, you know what, Josh? That's a bad idea. Because if he turns off the game, then the statue's gonna come into the real world and corner him in the bathroom, and then the statue,
him.
and then the statue is gonna, like, you know, gonna challenge him to a round of Pokemon Stadium.
And then he'll exit the bathroom to find on his bed, staring right at him, is a Link plushie with bloodstains under his eyes.